Eva, a young trainee, was invited to observe therapy sessions led by Sarah, her experienced psychologist. The mentee was proud of the attention given to her and hoped to learn a lot. Different people from all walks of life stopped by the clinic during the course of the day, each dealing with some kind of problem, weighing heavily on his or her mind. One patient, newly diagnosed with a dangerous disease, felt like giving up, as all hope of beating the disease had been lost. Another visitor suffered anxiety attacks at the thought of speaking in public and feared he'd lose his job because of it. A third fell in a deep depression, from which he had not been able to recover for many years. And a fourth, Mrs. King, cried bitterly during her own session because her husband had given her a red Ferrari. Eva could barely contain her anger, comparing the woman's complaints against those of other clients. How could she worry about the shade of a car when there are so many terrible things going on in the world? She watched, however, as Sarah not only listened carefully to the patient, but managed to find the right words to cheer her up. After the woman left, Eva indignantly asked her mentor why she was wasting her time on the hapless soul. Wouldn't it have been wiser to take someone else in her place, who really could use the help? The psychologist sat silent for a while, wiping her glasses thoughtfully, before looking up at the girl and explaining that she had known Mrs. King for a long time. Mrs. King was once an up-and-coming designer, who everyone saw as having a brilliant career ahead of her. She cherished her job and was happy to be creative. Customers valued her. Reputable firms sought her out. But after her marriage, Mrs. King found it difficult to combine family and work. On reflection, she chose to devote herself to her family. The woman tried very hard to be a good wife and mother. She gave all her time to taking care of her loved ones, even neglecting her favorite hobbies. However, something went wrong. It all started when her adult daughter left home in anger and avoided all communication with Mrs. King and her husband. Her son, meanwhile, suffered from depression after a failed relationship, and now wanders from one clinic to another. To get her mind off her troubles, Mrs. King tried her hand at designing again, but it took too long to really get back into the profession. All the while, her husband, who had always supported her and been a rock for her to lean on, grew distant. A coldness swept between them. They stopped having heart-to-heart talks and saw less and less of each other with each passing day. Mrs. King was very upset. She suspected her husband of having an affair. The Ferrari was the last straw, for the woman realized that her husband stopped caring about her. To buy a car with his fortune is not a problem. The whole thing is that after many years of marriage, he couldn't even remember what color his wife does not like. Listening, Eva grew ashamed. She realized she had been too harsh in her judgments, instead of getting to the heart of the problem. Don't judge other people's difficulties without understanding the situation. Perhaps a person's distress is much deeper than it seems at first glance.